I've come to have a look at the Newport Medieval Ship Festival, and I've never been to it before, and interesting to see what's going on.
Yeah, so you've got the coin striking, which is in the tent. You see the tent arrangement?
Yeah.
He's coin striking. We've got a couple of archers. We've got armoury there. We've got a leather maker. We've got a rope maker there. So all sorts of different willow weaving.
Brilliant.
That's quite stiff material.
So what would this be used for? Oh yeah, it like holds it shape, doesn't it?
We'll like your anchor rope
Oh, okay.
is a cable generally. So that's a lot softer. That's so that's 1/3 of that.
And there's no chance that doesn't unravel then?
It'll only unravel if you untied that, and then it would go everywhere. 9-inch circumference rope. It only forms at the speed at which they wind at the other end. Something like that, yeah.
Keep going.
I think it's about 3,000 for the full, including making the piece of rope as well.
And where did you learn how to do this?
I learned from Des Hawson, who is a rope maker in Ipswich, retired now. So yeah, that's where I first had a go.
And do you do it professionally, or is it?
I make rope for repairing stuff that I work on in my work. I'm a conservator of metalwork. On occasion you need specialist bits of rope to do certain things. So we've had a run of dumb waiters and things like that where you need a special type of rope, and the drive belts for spinning machinery is cotton. And I also do quite a lot of ordnance work for English heritage, working on cannons and firearms. And we use specialist ropes for the tard or left-hand blade or whatever.
So what are the other ropes for then?
Well, they're all offcuts from various jobs, and I just put various knots that I used that particular year. So that's the most commonly used knot today, called a bowline. And it's a knot that you can tie a loop in the end of a rope, and however hard you load that piece of rope, you'll always be able to undo the knot.
Yeah.
Because that's often quite important, that you can actually undo a knot. Right, there's your piece. You get the end.
Oh wow. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll cut your piece.
But your rank and file average peasant, as they used to call everybody, because that's not a derogatory term in the past, all of those people are probably just going to go and put shoes on until they fit, much like we do in the shoe zone or this sort of thing. So it's not going to have the variance in width that you would have in Clark's. When you find archaeological remains, if you've got a shoe like that, generally speaking, we don't find complete shoes. We find parts of shoes, or we'll find part of an upper, maybe the stitching split down here, and it's been thrown away for a reason. It's worn out or probably bursted stitching. But what we find is, you'll find shoes with cuts in, and that's maybe to relieve a bunion, or you get hammer toe, which is where a toe is sitting, instead of your toe sitting like my fingers, one of them will be pushed in. So what happens is somebody will cut some relief into the shoe. These pieces of leather, these are a minimum of 500 years old. They're found in the Thames in London on the foreshore, and they're actual shoes. That is that.
Yep.
So these are originals. I'm luckily enough to have a London Mudlark sent them to me, which is fantastic. I'd buy a bottle of champagne if I meet her. That one there is something in the region of 800 years old. So that's a very small lady's shoe. You see the narrow, we call this the waist. See how narrow that is? So that shoe would have come out like that.
Well, what's the scepter?
What we're looking at here, we've got nice sets of tuners. I do a nice set of tuners at 8 different points. We do that with a tuner first and all the rest. I'm proud to tell you all about them for a 10. There you are. And then you've got the thruppence of good cream best as well. And last but not least, you get the testoon of good old Henry Tudor. There we are, that's that.
This is a mini shield called a buckler, and it's there to deflect, punch, and move around with the blows of the attacks. And there's even fighting manuals how to use them as well. So you can see it has a lot of battle damage.
Yeah.
But if you want something more consistent, it's designed to take on lances, arrows, stuff like that. And the design on it is my coat of arms. We call this our Wyvern, type of dragon with 2 legs. Because dragons, if you look at coat of arms over the centuries, hundreds of years, they basically evolve like frogs. They first start off as basically worms, serpents, snakes, basically stuff like that. Over time they become wyverns with 2 legs, like Smaug in The Hobbit and stuff like that. And then 15th century you got Owen Glendur, and he has 4-legged dragons. So it just shows like a frog, starts with no legs, 2 legs, 4 legs.
I didn't want to take it off my own.
It's right, you just need to ask.
What I'll do, one picture with the sword, put that down, just hold it, down like that.
Yeah.
I thought about that and I thought, I'm not going to sit no shape.
You're a storyteller. Is she any good? You reckon she's a good storyteller?
Yes.
Good. And what story did she tell you?
She told us about there was one of a little baby, and there was a big flood, and it rose up halfway up a tree, and then there was people on their boats coming to find missing people.
So how long have you been telling stories for?
I've been a professional writer or storyteller all my working life.
Wow. And
I'm really old now, so you know.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
So what made you start telling stories?
Well, I trained in theatre, and I started to work as a performer and a writer, and it always seemed the thing I wanted to do, really. And I've done some other things along the way that were part of it, but always connected to it. So I'd some teaching or lecturing, and yeah, that type of thing.
And did you have any members of your family doing it? You're the first one.
Well, it's always hard to know, isn't it? I mean, if you go back far enough, certainly at the time of the ship, and in the century since then, everyone would have been telling stories just because that's what they did. But and I also know that I've got some forefathers, although it's harder to find out about the foremothers and what they did, but some forefathers who were lay preachers. So I wonder whether that's Methodist lay preachers, so I wonder if that's in the mix somewhere. I do events. I don't come to many events like this, but I'm really fond of the Newport ship, and I love working in Gwent as well, and on the levels, because I was born in UN. I play sort of folk music, and the idea today is I'm playing sort of sea shanties and hornpipes and things, as well as like folk music from all the places that the ship went. Because it's interesting with the folk music, because there's all these kind of connections, and you can hear it's all connected. And it's usually because the tunes went with people on the boats.
Part, and then the timbers will need to be surface cleaned, so this already has been, but when they come out of conservation, because they're conserved in wax, that wax and a little bit of dirt can get caked on the surface, and that needs to be cleaned off. And there also needs to be somewhere to put it, which is the main thing right now, is that they're working on finding where they're going to end up displaying the ship, and then they expect after that for it to take a couple of years to actually reconstruct the ship, because it's such a big project. It will stay in Newport. It will stay in Newport, so it is part of the Newport Museum collection. Right. It's affiliated with the Transporter Bridge and the Newport Museum, so it's not leaving Newport. The location in Newport isn't known yet. They don't have a spot for it.
my ceilidh band sort of does weddings and events. My other band does.
You have a ceilidh band?
I have a ceilidh band as
Oh,
well.
wow.
Yeah. You get Welsh ceilidhs, so a tumpath. You also get like Irish ceilidhs. Not played a Scottish ceilidh yet, but that doesn't mean they're not here. It might just mean that my band knows more Welsh and Irish tunes than Scottish tunes.
Is this done full time or do you have other stuff?
Yeah, I'm a full-time musician.
Full time.
Yeah.
Well, and did you go to college or uni or?
Yeah, Cardiff University Music Department, and I graduated a year before the pandemic. So it's just a great time for live music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
What's what now? It's my dagger.
Ooh, that's very sharp.
Dagger.
I didn't realise the holster.
Scabbard?
Yeah, scabbard.
Scabbard. That's another sort of rune emblem.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
which archers were very familiar with. You know, and it was a very widespread thing during the medieval times. You know, that's a very high class one, so somebody worth a few bob would do this. A lowly archer would have had a more plain one like this. But this is a long, thin, what we call a misericord, I think. Anyway, this was for putting knights out of their misery.
Yeah.
So it's nice and thin, nice and long, so it goes in between the armour,
Yeah.
in the eye slits of the visor,
Oh, gross.
right, to finish a knight off who's on the ground struggling in his armour. So the archer would finish them off with.
So you're reckoning the English archers were superior to the Welsh?
Absolutely. I'm from England. I'm from the Welsh Marches, from the town of Ludlow, which was the the centre of the campaign to keep the Welsh at bay.
What sign is
That's my household. This livery here, I'm a retained archer for Captain Nicholas Horton. So I'm a retained archer. I'm fairly well off, so I would have had a badge. Come late 14th century, I'd have had a badge. This here was because I fought for St George and for England.
So they use a special wood called willow. Are you using willow?
Yeah, using willow.
Because not all woods will do it. So you can just pull a branch
Yeah,
off.
willow's nice and flexible.
Willow's really bendy and soft.
So where do you get your willow from?
I grow it myself in Philly. So I grow 26 different varieties.
Oh wow.
And I've got 6,500 plants.
6,500 plants?
Yeah, so I cut, you get about 30 rods per plant then as well. So I cut about 200,000 rods every winter by hand.
Cool.
So yeah, and I've got this crazy idea to plant an acre of willow up. So I'm hoping eventually to have about 23,000 willow plants. But I'll be cutting them with a scythe mower instead of cutting them by hand because it takes far too long.
So how much area are your willows taking at the moment?
So at the moment they probably take not even a third of an acre. So yeah, 6,500 and a third of an acre. There's probably 4,500 in that, and I've started planting the new field. So yeah, so I hope to have 23,000.
And from the time of planting, when can you get your first willow?
The first year.
As quick as that?
Yeah, so I plant them well, especially on my land. My land is very wet as well, so it tends to grow really quickly. So I planted some 2 years ago, and they were 7-8 foot high by the next September. And I probably planted them end of March, and by September they were 7 to 8 foot high.
Wow.
So yeah, it's fast growing, and it depends on the variety as well, because some of them can grow 16 foot in a year. Yeah, I've soaked that, though that one snapped. Oh.
So do you have to soak them before you use them?
Yeah, so I dry them because when they're fresh, they've got a lot of water content in them, so they're very plump, which is nice. But when you weave a basket with them and they dry, then they shrink quite a lot. So I leave, once I cut them fresh, I leave them dry for 3 months and then I re-soak them, because they'll never take on as much water once you re-soak them as when they're fresh.
And do you do this professionally?
Yes.
And what do you make? Obviously you've got a pot there.
Yeah, I make a variety of baskets because I get bored if I make the same thing all the time. So yeah, I make all kinds. So Moses baskets, trugs, traditional Welsh baskets. So this is called a cynte. And then I do Welsh tea things baskets, which used to go on a Welsh dresser to hold cutlery, cups and plates and spoons. And then frame baskets, anything. I make willow coffins as well.
Wow.
I do willow sculpture, I do chair seating.
Do people commission you to make things? Or
Yeah, well, I go to craft fairs and people buy from my website, but I have commissions as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll do anything.
I love your attitude.
Oh, well, some days I don't want to get out of bed, but most days I'll have a bash,
Yeah,
see
fantastic.
what happens.
Have a go.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to work in IT, so it's a bit, just a bit different. No, I was a website designer or coder for 3 years as well, so yeah, you couldn't get more different being a basket maker. Yeah, but then also because I grow the willow as well, so I pick a colour like this one I grew because I wanted an orange in there. So you plant it, you grow it, but you know, it takes about 3 or 4 years to get enough to make a basket, but you know, you really can select what you want when you grow it as well. Totally, yeah, I cut it every year, and I've had some there for 14 years now, and it's still giving me loads of willows. So they should last up to 30 years if you cut them every year as well.
Well, good luck with getting your acre.
Thank you. Well, I do wonder I wonder about my sanity some days, but yeah, we'll see. Do you want to become a willow weaver? You do? Oh my God! You come and work for me? No?
That's right. I mean, urine is one way of diagnosing it. And it was all tied in with astrology as well. So, first of all, if you were feeling generally ill, I'd ask you for a sample. There we are. And the first thing I'm going to look at is see if there's any sediment in it. That could indicate a gravestone. In which case, I'm not going to touch you. I'm going to refer you to a friend of mine who's a lithotomist. And they specialise in cutting for the stone. That's all they do. So in the Hippocratic Oath for physicians, it says, "Thou shalt not cut for the stone." Okay? So that was that fact. It was a horrendous, dangerous operation to do, particularly without any form of anaesthetic. Okay? So, luckily enough, madam, the settle's quite clear. Okay? It's still warm, so we're in business. The next thing we look at is the colour of the sample, and that's quite dark. Okay? So what I need to know now is, what month were you born in? Sorry? August. Oh, good. August, you see, is a summer month. So summer, light, dry, warm. Winter, cold, dark, wet. This is winter wheat. It's dark. It's not a good sign. What we're going to have to do is treat you in a way, okay, that will turn your urine the right colour for yourself, which will be a light straw colour. Okay? So we would do that by sitting aside, giving you the opposite to yourself. So you are summer, we're going to treat you with winter. Okay? So we will give you lots of wet, lots of drink, fluid, and keep you cool until your urine turns the right colour, which is the light. Will that work? Absolutely. Because what we're doing, you're rehydrating. That's the thing. And the other way around will work. If you were born in January, okay, your urine should be dark. So we would treat you, if your urine was light, we would treat you with the opposite. We'd keep you in front of the fire, we'd give you lots of food and liquid fluid. So that will turn your urine dark. But before we do that, we have to find out, are you strong enough to take the treatment? So strong urine, strong patient. So we
I thought you were going to take a sip then.
Oh, check the paint off the barn door. Gee whiz. And then the only other treatment or the only other diagnosis we can do is to see if you've got too much sugar in your system. And there's only one way of testing for that.
No.
You're very sweet now. Too sweet. So what we're going to do now is keep you on sweet foods until this urine tastes neutral. It's the right colour for the period of the year in which you're born. No sediment, and you're feeling better. Okay? And that was the way we would do the urine diagnosis. You can see the chart. If it's light colour, generally speaking, you're okay. If it's red, that could indicate blood in the system, so we're going to have to bleed you. So we're on with the leeches, opening the veins, letting the blood out that way, rather than it getting into your urine. If it's black, I'm going to refer you to somebody that I don't like, because there's a pretty good chance you're going to say no, and I don't want the responsibility of that on my watch. So the one thing that the barber surgeons and the physicians were very good at in those days was moving you on if there was any sign of any problem.
They were usually use steel bows in this country, which meant really high draw weights, but not much power because they're very slow. These are actually fiber.
And you're so enthusiastic. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
So, I'm Sam, and I'm from Canterbury, and I'm demonstrating fletching and crossbows.
You're from Canterbury?
I'm from Canterbury.
In Kent?
In Kent.
Wow.
I know, long drive.
A long way to come. Why have you come here?
Well, we got a house in Wales and came here on holiday, and I saw an advert for this, and I sent them an email and said, can I come and do it? And they said, yeah. So
brilliant. So tell us what you're doing.
So unfortunately it's a bit of a mess now. I've been demonstrating fletching and arrowheads today, and then people have a go with my crossbows. I've been making replicas of the Westminster arrows. This one is one of the ones off the Mary Rose. So it's got copper acetate, beeswax and pine resin, all melted together and applied to the shaft. And then swan feathers are bound over the top with red silk, and then it's all heated up to turn into a glue and, really concrete it together. And then we've got a Type 16 head on the end, which is like one that's found in Westminster Abbey. And it's very clever actually, because it's forged in 2 parts. You have to forge the cone first, and then you put the barb over the top and fire weld it together.
And did you make these?
I didn't make the heads. I do make them, but I'm not very good at them. They're very difficult. So.
It's okay being not very good as well.
I know. I struggle with that.
No. You've got to remember, you are your own judge.
Exactly.
And be fair on yourself.
I'm a very harsh judge.
How many years have you been doing it?
3 years probably.
Wow, so that's quite quick.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and the crossbows, did you make them yourself?
Yep, all of mine.
So how do you make the crossbow?
So we'll start with this one. This one is very simple. It's an 11th century. Got a U prod with cow horn knocks, and then it's bound on with hemp. It's got horn cheek plates with, it should be an antler nut, but I had to use nylon because I can't get hold of antler big enough. And then I've got an iron tickler here.
I'm really impressed. Is he any relation of yours?
No, none whatsoever.
I don't believe that for a second.
I've never met him before.
Just came with you in the car.
He's my son.
I always say, when you look at a child, look at the parents. When you look, whether it's a success or a failure, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so impressed with him. To be honest with you, I think that's not bad as a name. A sea shanty or something.
Oh yeah, I'll play a sea shanty. That's a good idea. Well, actually, I'm debating between a sea shanty or the hornpipe they play on the last night of the proms. College hornpipe, that's what it's called.
College hornpipe.
That's called college hornpipe.